Hey everybody, welcome off the show Board Game Reviews. This video is part of a video series looking at the game system Too Many Bones. In these next couple of videos, what we're going to do is I'm going to cover some of the expansions and the different things you can buy to make this very, very robust and very complete game system. Give you some options to add to the replay and the variety of the game. So in this video, I'm kind of assuming you at least partially checked out the other videos in the series, which basically focus on the main Too Many Bones set, which was a quick overview of the game, the tutorial video, the sample gameplay, and my actual review of the game, where I actually cover some of the things I may talk about here. So there may be some overlap between the videos, but just in case you're not watching 100% of all those other videos, I did want to cover some overlap so you can see some of the differences, some of the changes, and see what these expansions, or in this case of Undertow, what we're going to talk about right now, see what these new standalone expansions or standalone sets bring to the game system itself. Now, let's look at Undertow itself. Now, if you're not familiar with Too Many Bones is an adventure game for 1 to 4 players, or with Undertow, 1 to 2 players. It's a cooperative game where players are playing plucky little Gearlocs who are on a quest to defeat a grand tyrant. Now, if you defeat the tyrant, you win and the countryside rejoices. If you fail to defeat the tyrant in the amount of days allotted to our heroes, we're going to fail and then we need to start our quest all over again. Now, what we have here with the Undertow expansion is some modifications, some evolutions, and some much more diverse and in some cases more complex, more challenging, and much more evolved gameplay. So what we have here is we have 2 brand new Gearlocs, or 2 brand new heroes. We have Duster and we have Stanza. Now what these 2 new Gearlocs bring to the game is some interesting new unique gameplay. Duster, if you played the original game, or you will be very familiar with Duster because Duster was one of the final Tyrants in the original base set. Well, it looks like Duster has changed her ways and has come over away from the dark side, or maybe to the light side, or well, let's try not to use any Star Wars references because we know how those all turn out. But basically, Duster is a hero, which is going to be the very first hero who comes in with a pet. Now, Duster has some really cool abilities. Duster is part assassin, does some really good damage. Doesn't have a lot of good defense, though. Doesn't start with a lot of health, but has a lot of dexterity in the beginning. The ability to roll a decent amount of attack dice right from the beginning, and also Duster comes into play with her pet wolf. Now the cool thing about her pet wolf is it's not going to come in any battles that Duster does not start already wounded, but as soon as Duster takes a wound at the end of the round that she does take a wound, the wolf is going to come into the fight and is going to assist her. Now the wolf is not that powerful in the beginning, and you actually have a couple different ways that you build up Duster. You build up Duster with the anticipation that you're going to have your wolf in the fight with you at all times, and you can level up the wolf, get extra powers, extra abilities, and the wolf even has the ability to start doing a leech to start keeping itself alive. Because the really interesting thing about Duster is when you heal during the recovery phase, you either heal Duster or you heal the wolf, and again she does have some dice that can modify that, but that's something you need to consider when you're playing Duster. So Duster creates this really unique character who is really phenomenal, a lot of fun to play through solo because she's really good at playing the game. She can hide, she can play like an assassin, she do some really good damage, and she's really good at taking on a lot of tyrants, but she does have her weaknesses in the fact that she is kind of a glass cannon, and she also has some very distinct paths she can go down, or you can combine these paths by becoming an assassin with a pet, be a pure pet class, or be a pure DPS with lots of debuffs through poison and different abilities. That's how Duster is going to play. Now the other new character we have is Stanza. Now Stanza is a really interesting character, and this is the one I like to introduce to people who don't mind a little bit more complex gameplay, but people who don't like the randomness of dice. Because Stanza does not roll a lot of dice. Stanza is a buff and a debuff character who, instead of rolling dice all the time, you're going to cycle your dice up and your dice are going to get more and more powerful. You're basically going to say, I'm going to sing the song, and the first round I sing it, it's going to be kind of weak. The second round I'm going to sing it's going to get a little more powerful. The third round I'm going to sing it's going to be even more powerful. The problem is you can only keep so many songs going at one time. And if you ever have a song that you want to keep going and not exhaust, but you don't have enough power to keep this many songs going, you're going to have to go what's called into vamped, which means you're going to downplay the song and start the cycle all over again. Here's the real interesting thing about Stanza, though. Not all the dice evolve in a better, best kind of method. Some of them are okay, terrible, even better than okay, terrible again, fantastic for you, or something along those effects. For example, to give you one really good example, Stanza has a die that allows her to buff for 1 hit point. But hit points are good. As soon as you bring it up to level 2, it heals every unit on the map for 1 hit point. So when do you use this one? Well, if you use it when everybody on the map happens to be hurt just a little bit, you've completely actually hampered the party. But if you use this ability earlier in the gameplay, and if you're really focusing on bringing down one enemy and you have a whole bunch of enemies on the map who aren't hurt at all, it's going to heal your party but not heal any of the units. So you need to play Stanza smartly. And again, the really cool thing about Stanza is the way Stanza plays is you're not rolling a lot of dice. You're basically cycling these dice, and the only real dice you're ever going to do, you're going to roll, is the ones that control how much song power you have every single round. And that's part of the mechanics, part of the gameplay of how Stanza plays. Now, Stanza is a very complex character in comparison to some of the other characters. I pretty much put Stanza on the same level as Gasket, which is another character where you're trying to control a resource that's very finite, and you're trying to juggle this resource while you're trying to do your things. But Stanza does offer some pretty cool abilities, some very good offensive power, some very good starting defense power with a total of 5 health, and some good dexterity to make sure that you can be doing a lot of those abilities. So Stanza also adds some really unique gameplay. Now, the next thing that this Undertow brings into the map is a much more complex map. You're going to see this map is now double-sided. One side is a forest side, and the other side happens to be a raft. Now, this adds some really interesting complex gameplay to the game, because now we have 2 level 3 baddies added to the game. We have the mechs, which are robots, and then we have the crown, which are going to be our sea-based creatures. Now, crown are only going to come out when we're on the raft side, and some adventures will tell you to take the raft side. And then you're going to have the mechs, which are only going to come out when we have the earth fights. Now, the cool things about these creatures is they're only going to come out on the numbered slots 1 through 6. So they're not going to use the standard slots, which is going to cause some challenges for all of our heroes. They're also going to advance on the board and come after our heroes, but our heroes can't go out in these other slots. And robots don't get fatigued. Robots can't be bled. Robots can't be poisoned, so it can't be debuffed at all. So it changes up how our earlier heroes from the earlier games are going to have to play, because players who rely on poison can't hurt mechs. Players who like to work on a war of attrition, such as Patches, who likes to just keep themselves healed and let the timer run out the map sometimes for some of the fights, can't do that because mechs never get fatigued. Add to that, adding in the challenges, when you're on the raft can take damage. And as the raft takes more and more damage based on the position of these crown, and I won't go over into all the exact details here, because if you want to check it out, check out my tutorial video. But as the raft gets damaged, if we ever get to the point where the raft is completely damaged and we cannot add any more of these broken barge chips, it doesn't matter how many hit points we have, it doesn't matter how close we are to defeating these baddies, once we have to add 1 more point of damage to the ship and we can't do it, we've failed this day of adventuring, and we need to go to recovery phase as a failure without getting any rewards. So you see, this adds a lot more challenges, a lot more movement, and you can see that our players and our heroes are going to have to move around quite differently, how they're going to interact with everything going on here based on the way the map is going. And your positioning is much important. You have to be paying much more attention to how these bad guys are moving across the map, because they're going to hop back and forth, causing damage to the ship unless there's somebody there to stop them. So that adds a lot more variety into the game there. Also adding on, borrowing from some of the expansions of the earlier game, is we now get a campaign. Now, I'm going to say right now, it is not exactly like the campaign expansion for the basic Too Many Bones. It's kind of like a hybrid. It kind of takes some of the gameplay down and kind of shrinks it down a little bit, with still giving you a little bit of a feel of a campaign game. Now, it's not quite as robust as the original campaign game. If you're looking for a multi-tyrant encounter where you're going to fight more than 3 tyrants and go through this long campaign where you get to keep skills and level up, it's probably not what you're looking for, but it does add a lot of variety, add a lot of challenges, and some more things to consider when you're playing the game. Also, one other thing that's really cool that Undertow adds in the basic box without buying expansions is, even though there's only a day 1 and a day 2 card, unlike the base game has 1, 2, and day 3 cards, you actually have a variety of which cards you're going to pick. You're going to pick one of the 4 day 1 cards, and then one of the 4 day 2 cards, and you're going to use that to start your adventure, which is also going to add to the variety and add to the gameplay. Replay of the game, and making sure, unlike the basic set of Too Many Bones, it's going to make sure that you're not going to have the same stagnant 3 days every single time you play the game. Of course, there's an expansion that does fix that, but just so you know, right out of the base box, you have that option right here in the game. Now, I've already shown you multiple things with the multiple different sided playmats. It's got campaigns, it's got new encounters, new solo rules, new adventures, and new things out of the game. And just to go over things I've already covered earlier in my actual review, I actually think that Undertow is the better entry into the system if you are not sure if you're going to like Too Many Bones. I think that if you're not sure if you want to spend the money, because this is a little bit more of an expensive game because of these really high quality components. I mean, you have these rubber mats immune to water. Your chips are immune to water. Your cards are immune to water. You don't have to worry about somebody spilling their soda or their beer on this mat. The worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to get a little sticky and you're going to pull out a little wipe, clean it up and go, yep, let's keep moving on, having fun, guys, because it doesn't really matter. So having said that, the game is a little bit pricey, and I think that Undertow is actually the best entry into the game. 2 reasons. 1, you're not sure if you like the game, you don't want to spend a lot of money. This is going to give you a little bit of everything in one box. 2, you buy this and you decide you like the game. Well, you're going to buy Undertow anyways because you're going to want to get these adventures, because these 2 Gearlocs add a lot of variety to the base game and add some unique challenges. And plus, I can't harp on enough and tell you how awesome it is to have this variety with this raft that can fall apart, the challenges that creates, the crown, the mechs, and the extra challenges they create, how they're going to move around the board, and just a different variety this is going to create as you're playing the game. Even the positioning of the bad guys is going to be different. You got new categories of bad guys and different challenges. Now, you don't get as many bad guys. Obviously, you have less bad guys here because, well, it's a smaller box, a smaller buy-in, so you're not getting as much variety in the bad guys. And that's actually one of the negatives I have against the Undertow set. I think this one of all the sets needs a 40 days and 40 nights, adding more bad guys, more adventures, and more things, because this box tries to be everything in one little box. Has its pluses, it has its minuses. The bonus is you get a lot of stuff. The negative is you're getting a little bit of a lot of that stuff. So you need to decide if that's what you want. I think it's a great entry point. It gives you a really good idea of how the game plays. Gives you a little bit of everything. And again, it's going to be a set that you're going to want, whether you just want to try the game, check out Too Many Bones, or if you want to go all in and get everything available for the game. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them down in the YouTube comments down below. I will definitely answer them as quickly as I can. You can also feel free to email me at offtheshelfboardgamereviews, otsbgr@gmail.com. I'll answer your questions as quickly as I can. If you like this video, you like this series, click that like button, click that subscribe button. As always, thanks for watching.